Well, hello and welcome to Little State Big Voices with myself, Shahida, and my fabulous co-host.
Hey y'all, it's
You're
Tracy.
supposed to say your name, ma'am.
I know.
Obviously, I can't do anything new without running it by you first.
It's Tracy. Hey y'all. Is that better?
Yes, yes. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. It's
Happy New
what's
Year.
today's what's today? The 19th. So I think this is the cutoff for Happy New Year. That's it. No more. After today, we ain't saying Happy New Year no more.
There's some people you don't see, so you got to
No.
wish them. No, no.
Mm-mm.
Okay. Well,
No.
Happy New Year. Happy 2-year anniversary.
Yes, happy 2-year anniversary. I think I actually said 3 on one of our prior episodes. I was jumping the gun. We are in season 3, but we're on our second year. We started January 15th, 2024. That was our very first recording, no video, just at Lit Arts RI, just making it do what it do with audio only. And here we are, 2 years later, still bringing the heat.
And y'all, I miss the audio only. The days of recording and not having any clothes on, not having to do something with my hair. I miss the audio. I miss
Well,
that.
we were at Lit Arts, so you did have to put clothes on to go to Lit Arts, but
Yeah, but once we got that hookup at home, it was
that's
different.
true.
It
But
was
I
different.
I will neither confirm nor deny if I have anything on from the waist down.
Yeah. And you know what she's doing? She's exercising her right in her home the way that Martin Luther King wanted her to be able to
That's
express
right.
herself.
Dr. King fought for me to be able to do remote
Do what
audio
you want.
video podcast with just a hoodie on and a hat.
Do what you want. That's it. So it is what? Martin Luther King Day today.
Mhm.
So you'll be getting this later in the day, but definitely not first thing in the morning for those viewers that want to see us like the first thing or hear us the first thing.
And we do get the calls. We get the calls, we get the texts, we get the DMs like, "Where is my episode?" And that
Mm,
warms my heart. I really love that people are fiending, that we have them kinda like in a Pavlov's dog type situation where if they don't get that episode at midnight on Monday, it's a problem.
mhm,
And
mhm. I
we're not
appreciate it.
yeah, we're not messing with your heads. Just sometimes me and Sheeta need we need a little reprieve, just a little.
Just a tiny one. But so I went to my first time ever going to Roads of Patuxent, I think it is, for the MLK breakfast here. Usually I go to the one in Boston, and it was very good. Met a lot of great people. It was very great speeches. The woman who did her speech, she's an actual immigrant, and I cannot remember her name, but she actually read the letter she got from George Bush at the time. He was president, welcoming her to America as a citizen and her responsibilities as a citizen, being kind to your neighbor, the moral responsibility. She read the letter, and I asked her to come on the podcast at one point and read that letter, because I don't even think we who were born here understand, or we just all need to be reminded of the moral responsibility we have, not only to the country but to each other. And this letter welcoming immigrants to this country really broke it down, and it was very moving. Yeah, it was very moving. So it was a very good part of the breakfast. But I've been reflecting, I guess we all are, all the things that Martin Luther King fought for and where we are today.
And this year, MLK Junior Day definitely hits different because I
Mhm.
think that for a long time we took for granted
Mhm.
really the efforts of Dr. King and so many more from the
Mhm.
civil rights movement, from Malcolm X down to Rosa Parks, to the woman who actually just passed away last week, who actually was supposed to be the face of the civil rights movement, and it ended up being, well, for the busing rather, and it ended up being
Mhm.
Rosa Parks, because that woman, who I will post an article about on our pages and socials, she was a single, I think she was a pregnant teenager or something like that, and they didn't feel like she was the right person to
Mhm.
represent the movement, so they ended up going with Rosa Parks instead. But this woman actually had advocated first for the being able to sit wherever she wanted on the bus and busing and things like that. But it just so happened that she just didn't meet the moral character that the
Mhm.
NAACP or the civil rights movement was looking for. They didn't feel like they would get as far using her as the icon. So it ended up being Rosa Parks. But that woman passed away last week. So we're not that far removed from all this history. And we're taking many steps back, many, many steps back.
Mhm.
It's a sad state of affairs, to be honest with you. And so, if you were able to go to a breakfast, if you were able to congregate with like minded people and talk about solutions, if you're able to talk to some people who could use their ally privilege, talk to them, make them go out in the streets and do all the things that they need to be doing to help with this.
And and that's the thing. Like you said, one of the things I think we have grown to take, we take it all for granted.
Mhm.
Since the 60s and since Martin Luther King and the civil rights movement, legal segregation was not legalized until 1960. Fair housing, Fair Housing Act wasn't legalized until the 60s. I mean, I know it seems like a long time for a lot of people, especially people who were not born like in the 70s or 80s.
Mhm.
Voting became accessible in the 60s, not only just for Black people, for, women as more accessible is my
Right.
point. So many things have got the middle class started growing in the 60s. So, what you might see in the suburbs now was not what it was, what especially when it comes to housing. And we all remember that the guy we call the president and his father were discriminating against Black people moving into their houses, and they were actually successfully sued by the federal government and had to pay a heavy fine. I don't know how people forget, but you know what? History is always forgotten, and that is part of the problem. So we need to think that, we might have progress, but progress is just one of those things that never is, especially for Black people, it's never permanent. It's
You have
always
to feed it.
required. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
always required to have participation. It's always required to have protection. And it's always required for us to be out there, you know, not just fighting for ourselves, but for the next generations. It requires a lot.
Right. And the thing is that, Dr. King was known for, peace and love and things like that, but he also was very adamant that you have to work at this thing. This is not something that's going to happen on its own. You have to be boots on the ground. You have to stand up for what's important and what's right. And right now is the most important time to be standing up for what's right, especially with everything that's going on with ICE. That's like every single day
Mm.
it's an incident with ICE. And so Dr. King knew about resistance. He knew about putting his physical body in harm's way to try to get us to a point where we could have this freedom. That was his big thing is, we need to let freedom ring and it needs to be for every man, woman, boy, girl, regardless of your race, color. And the thing is that so much is going on that is impacting US born American citizens.
Mhm.
You're in the line of fire now. It's not just Black men. It's not just Black people. It's not just us. It's white people now. It's
Mhm.
children. Women and children used to always be off limits. That used to be like
No, they
a
never
thing.
were. Think about it. They really were not.
Well, not for us, but I'm talking about in white society.
Nope,
Women
not
and
for them
children.
either. That's the thing. If white people knew their history as much as they try and erase ours, they would be better off. Women and their children were never a protected class. It's always been white men. They might protect the white son, but who was out there in those factories losing their lives too? Their children.
That's true. But
So they have.
that was like a thing. It's like, at the very least, it's like women and children should be that was the mindset. It's like even
That was the lie
if it wasn't
because that's
strictly
all they
adhered
do
to.
is lie.
Right, but that was the fantasy, right? But
Hmm.
that's even
That's
out
it.
the window. Now it's just like if you're in the way of what the wrong side is trying to do, then you'll just get plowed down, and which is crazy. It's a lot.
And when
It's
you're
too
getting
much.
all the backlash that we're getting for trying to stand up and talk. Think about how just the power of our voices now, they're trying to criminalize that. That means it matters.
Yeah,
That means
definitely.
that what you're saying, that you are on the right side of history when you speak up against these things. My father said something to me. Oh goodness, what he said? He said, "Memory is a form of resistance." Think
Mm.
about that. Just knowing your history, remembering what happened to people behind you, and we're not even going that far. We can just go back a couple of years when Black Lives Matters was out in the streets, and how the government stick their goons on us, and we were peaceful, and they're doing the same thing. Now I just read in the paper today that this man is sending out troops from Alaska to Minnesota
For what?
against your own country, sending out troops against your own country. That's where we are.
Yeah.
And that's what we have let happen. Think of all the I'm gonna say it, all the Black women who were very loud even before 2016, that this is where America was heading. There were tea leaves all over the place.
Mhm.
There were hints all over the place. And I remember having arguments with certain people and Black people, people in my family, saying I was being hyperbolic when I said that this particular person was racist and this particular I've been saying since probably 1990s that Lindsey Graham was a racist. No, he's not. Him and McCain and none of his policies were for us, and you could tell a fake and a liar. At least I can easily. And I feel like at this time, it wasn't just us, but there was a lot of people who just would not listen and see what the country was at, where it was actually going. And one thing we have to remember, they're saying that the Black Panthers are making a resurgence. And I was reading some posts from, like, some famous, not famous, but really popular posters on Threads. And it was like, here they are to save the day. No, no, you save the day, sir.
Right.
You
Yeah.
get you and your family out there in those streets, and you save the day, because you all got rid of the Black Panthers. But the KKK and the Nazis, I've never seen the FBI go after them. I never seen them being
That's the
dismantled, not
thing. You
once.
don't you don't see that. You don't see it,
Nope.
and it's not publicized because it's 9 out of 10 it's not happening. I just watched a movie the other day. It's called One Battle After Another. Have you seen it yet?
I tried.
Okay. And it's a lot, and it's a very long movie.
Mhm,
Trust
mhm.
me, it's not
It's
normally
almost
my
3 hours, right?
it's a long movie, it's over 2 hours. It probably is
Okay.
3. It's not normally my cup of tea, but
Mhm.
there's Sean Penn's character in that the whole thing, like, if you watch it to the end, and I don't wanna ruin it for everybody, but it even just shows the cannibalism within the racist community. It shows their own cannibalism, and that if we try to do anything that's a resistance, it's like they will bring out the cavalry. They will bring out, the 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 military to attack the people who aren't even doing anything. Like
Mhm.
you're fighting resistance with fire, which is it's
Mhm.
overkill. And so that was
Mhm.
also spotlighted there. But I was also thinking about some of the things that, we're taught, like, oh, the meek shall inherit the earth. And I had an epiphany this morning that that was some bullshit propaganda. And
Who
I know
told you
that's the
that?
I myself, my spirit told me that this
No,
morning.
no,
Oh,
I
that the
know your
meek,
spirit,
yeah, yeah,
but who told you that?
it comes from religion. And the thing is that I know people who are like, Christians and read the Bible and everything will say like, well, that's in the Bible and you shouldn't be saying that that's not true. But the shit is not true. The meek cannot inherit the earth without something to go behind it. So the meek are gonna have to come out of their shells and fight back in order to inherit the earth to make it, but the meek can't inherit the earth based on what's happening right now. You can't just
Mm-mm.
keep getting pounded and pounded and pounded and just, oh, we're just gonna hold
Uh,
hands and kumbaya. That's not gonna work. That is not it has never worked. So,
but and I always say, I have no problem with Christianity, but there are two Christianities. There's a
right.
Christianity for Black people and other minority groups, and there's a Christianity for Caucasians. And the Caucasians' Christianity is not the meek shall inherit the earth. Their Christianity is, I'm going to put my foot on your neck and you're going to have to do what I say and you'll get good in the next life, but I'm going to control you in this
And
life.
that's the carrot
So,
that's been dangled.
um,
That's the carrot that's been dangled. And that's why Black Christianity grew to what it was. And there's so much resistance to the violence because really, if you think about it, during slavery time, the only moment of peace you could get as a slave was when they let you have a little church meeting on Sunday for like an hour or whatever. And that's my
mhm,
theory on why church is so long in the Black community is we were trying to stretch that time
mhm,
out so we wouldn't have to be
mhm.
beaten down and beaten to death in the field somewhere, baking in the sun. We're like, we're gonna make church 3, 4 hours because this is our only safe space. You know what I mean?
It really was, and they were only given Sunday because when Africans first came here, when they were first dragged here, they had to work 7 days a week,
Hmm.
but they were working them harder than animals, and a lot of them were dying. So in
Yeah.
order to save some of their investment, they said, "Oh, let's give them 1 day." So Sunday became the day.
Yeah.
And before then, they didn't want them to have church because they thought that they were too savage to understand the word of God because it's and it came to like animals. You're not going to bring a dog to church services because he's not going to understand it because he doesn't have a soul. And that's how they felt about Black people. So it was a lot of, they had to be a lot of convincing from the church community to, "Oh, we have to at least try and save these savages' souls so then they
Hmm.
would have church on Sunday." So even that wasn't given to you out of the benevolence of their heart. It was
Right.
just given to you as a way to save their investments so that you could have 1 day off.
Yeah.
Diabolical.
But here we are today in 2026 with a new set of problems, and it got me to thinking. Like, I really want to talk more to the elders in my family about like what was your experience
Mm,
during the 60s and 70s. My mother came; she was the last of her siblings to come to the U.S. and she got here in 1970. So my mother's perspective is going to be wildly different from that of her siblings because my mother came to Boston 1970 and my her older siblings went to Indiana in the late 50s. Strikingly different experiences. So, and the thing that I marveled at
mhm,
is that they managed to, my aunts and uncles in that settled in the Midwest, they maintain a good group of white friends, a good group of Black friends, and they still are able to understand that, what's going on is an ongoing fight, and they never fell for the okey doke. They never fell for like Black people are inferior. We should fall back. They never, fell for the red state propaganda, anything like that. They've maintained their liberalism and their striving to be Democrats and things like that. So I need to start right really deep diving and talking to these elders because they're in their 80s now, 70s and 80s. So
mhm,
I really want to hear more about what they think and what their suggestions are.
mhm. Yeah. I mean, my family is from the Midwest as well, St. Louis, and a lot of us stayed in St. Louis, but then there was that big split where a lot went to California and then the others came to Boston. I
Yeah.
don't know how you had that decision where you'd be like, "Ooh, Boston, California, California," and you go, "Oh, I'm gonna go to Boston." How come couldn't be on that side? Nobody wanted to stay in St. Louis, but how come couldn't be on the California side? But I listened to the stories of my great aunts, and I think I've said this before on the podcast that I have aunts who are now approaching 100. Had a great aunt that was 106 when she passed away. My great grandmother was 100 years old when she passed away. So I heard a lot of stories, and I when you listen to your elders, especially your Black elders, and the way they had to carve out a life for themselves, and especially in the harshest of times. You know, St. Louis specifically, my grandfather had like little juke joints, and I think one was called. There was a movie with a similar name, Red Blood something. I can't remember. I'm like, oh, that sounds like a horrible name,
Mm.
but it was a very popular juke joint, and then you hear the stories, and I'm pretty sure Alice Walker heard those stories when she was doing The Color Purple, and she was talking about Harpo's juke joints because we heard
Yeah.
similar stories growing up, and you're still able to carve out. I admire them because they were still able to carve out so
Yeah.
much happiness, so much joy, so many funny stories, so much personality in a society that really treated them badly, especially in St. Louis,
And
you
I
know?
I
So
know
yeah,
that
I agree with you.
I know that the Black church was part of what sustained them. I know that for a fact,
Mhm,
especially my aunts, my eldest aunt, who's probably like 85, I think she's gonna be 85 this year. The Black church was like, that was, she said that's where they found their community because they were
mhm,
miles, thousands of miles away from home. They were in a whole different country, whole different culture,
mhm,
and they were able to they were embraced in the Black church. And my aunt actually played piano for decades in the Black church, and she just,
mm.
really found a safe space there. So I really do want to talk to them more. My aunt has amazing stories, and it's just a matter of asking. She was actually at her church telling some stories
Mhm,
a couple of weeks ago, and it was just beautiful to see the recording of her, sitting there and talking about her experience. So, I'm not by any means putting down, our Black community and our Black church, but that's what it's community. It's finding community, whatever that looks like. I mean, I was just at the
mhm,
Funda Fest activities last weekend, and that ceremony. So Funda Fest is an event that happens here in Rhode Island. It started on the 16th and it will go through January 25th till next Sunday. And every day it's community building, storytelling. And those stories range from, our ancestors' days to present day. And just to see the people get together, and it's kids, it's adults, and the woman who started Funda Fest, she's well into her senior years, and she just still has stories to share, stories to tell, and it's so beautiful that the young people could be there to hear her talk about all different kinds of experiences and how all of this started. But community, whatever it looks like, and gathering together is going to be the balm, the salve that we need to get through these times.
and even though I'm Muslim, I grew up in a Christian church too, because half of my family is. And I will say, if you've never been to a Black church, go to a Black church. Not a big Black church, a small Black church, because those 100% you will be well received and you will feel the community, the love, the outpouring. Let me feed you, let me talk. It's a whole different experience compared to to other situations. I think I lost Tracy. Let me That was a little glitch. So I'm going to have to stream these together. We were talking about the Black church, and I was saying if you hadn't been to a Black church, go, because I was raised in a very small, my great grandfather was a pastor, and I absolutely loved it. And it's always been a sense of community. But I've had that same sense of community going to Masjid El Quran in Roxbury, well, Dorchester actually, on Interville Street. It's just something about Black people convening together and being grateful and praising God. It's something like you were saying. It's that community, and it's very strong in us to kind of rely on one another, and that's something that we have to do at this time. There's a lot of anger amongst us sometimes, whether it be men and women, whether it be, different politicking. I'm not going to count those people who are out there, the Black people wearing those red hats, because they goddamn well know better. They know better. And they should do better. And I'm not even gonna pretend to let them back into the community, because once you turn on your people like that, you don't know. No, you stay right where you are,
So
Nikki.
speaking of
Nikki.
that, speaking of that,
Okay.
another person we have to cancel now is Ludacris.
I
Another
I've never been
person.
a fan. Never been much of a fan. But tell us what he did this time.
So there's this festival. Its nickname is MAGA Fest. So that tells me everything I need to know. It's not actually called MAGA Fest, but it's a
But that's
country.
their nickname.
That's
Okay.
the nickname that it's been tagged with. But there's a
Mm-hmm.
country festival that's coming up, and it's going to be featuring a lot of artists who are pro MAGA that we know are pro MAGA have historically shown themselves to be racist, like Jason Aldean and all these other men. And they've
Mm-hmm.
invited Ludacris to participate, and he accepted, and he will be performing with them. So again, I'm like, you have a
Him and
platform, sir.
Nelly.
And now, well, he was already canceled in my eyes because he was already
Mm-hmm.
on some BS from, I think he was at the inauguration. So
He was. He was.
yeah, so he was already cut. So yeah, it's Ludacris and Nelly. I'm like, you have the option to just not pick a side. And you are picking a side by doing this. And I don't know what their finances are. I don't know if this is money they feel like they need this money and that's
Mm-hmm.
why they're doing this because I can't understand what your motivation could be other than money. Why would you do that? Why would you turn your back on the community who serves you, who stood by you, who helped build you up? Because before you became mainstream, don't forget who was listening to you and buying your records out of the trunk of your car and all that other stuff. That was the black community. That was not anybody on the country western side of things. These are the same people that don't accept Beyonce's country album and don't accept other black people coming into the country sphere. And but you're gonna go over there because what, Nelly, you once did a country record with whoever, I don't even remember who you did it with. It was a good record, I did like it, but I don't understand, I just don't understand.
Yeah, I don't understand. It's like, again, reflecting on, MLK and what he fought for, what the civil rights movement was exactly. It's This should always be a checkpoint for us. His birthday should always be a checkpoint for us. What have we lose and what have we lost and what have we gained? And we gained a lot, but we are in the process of losing a lot. The Supreme Court has gutted the Civil Rights Act. The Supreme Court has gutted the Voting Act, giving the states the opportunity to gerrymander, configure the state, take polling stations out of black communities so it's harder to vote, getting rid of voter polls, getting people's names thrown off of voter rolls. So there's a lot. So we have lost a lot too. And the biggest thing that we have lost is that after so many deaths, after so many murders, after so much bloodshed of our ancestors, we have been convinced that voting doesn't matter. And I'll say
Hmm.
this every time: after all that bloodshed, we have been convinced that it doesn't matter, and yet and still they still vote, while telling you all the time, as they try and get rid of your vote and throw your vote out, that it doesn't matter. Well, if it didn't matter, why are they working so hard to make sure that this one block of voters, black Americans, can't vote?
And voting is so easy, it is so easy now.
It's the simplest thing you could do.
You do not even have to stand in line anymore. You can early vote. That's an option. You can vote on election day, which is, probably the longest of the processes. But if a lot of people don't realize, if you have a special need or you have a child with special needs, you can actually let them know and they will escort you to the front of the line so that you
Mm-hmm.
can have, special privileges to vote faster. It's just like having a handicap placard. You get a better parking space. You have more privileges to vote when you have a disability. And on top of that, you can mail in your vote. They will mail you the ballot. You can fill it out, drop it in a designated voting bin, or mailing it back. Voting is so easy to do. So, yes, we need to be voting and in all of the elections, not just the presidential elections, because as we can see, what's happening now is that losing control of Congress and losing control of all these other local elections is what is caused it, what has brought us here to where we are
Right.
right now.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
And we gotta continue to fight harder. I mean, that's not what
Even the
MLK.
Martin Luther King holiday, like if you think about it, we didn't get that until I believe 1986. We
Yep, in
got
the
the Martin
80s.
Luther
I know
King.
it was in the 80s.
We
Yep.
got it in the 80s. This is not even guaranteed. It's not even guaranteed you'll have Martin Luther King's birthday as a holiday next year. None of it is guaranteed. Everything is up for grabs right now. So the Juneteenth holiday, we just got that a few years ago. There's no guarantee that's
Might not have that.
gonna stick. And I have people who I've worked with people who, when they're setting up their holidays schedule for their employees, will will purposely not give their employees Juneteenth.
Mm. And what would
So
be their reason?
because, well, we don't have that many holidays. We have, instead of the federal holidays, these are the holidays our office observes for whatever reason. And there'll be businesses that are non-essential. It's not like this place has to be open on this day. It's clearly their effort to minimize the Juneteenth holiday and things like that. And so they might also not observe Columbus Indigenous Day or whatever. So, there are other things. So they'll be like, well, Juneteenth is a casualty along with Columbus, but it's a shot
Mm-mm.
at the
Not the
Juneteenth
same.
holiday. Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm. So I'm wearing a pen today, and it says, "Equity starts on the bench." And this is actually the reason why I bring it up is because that's another thing that we don't pay attention to. We don't pay attention to who our Supreme Court justices are locally. I'm not talking about the big one with the fake ass Clarence Thomas or them. Who our judges are. We don't pay attention to who our congressmen are. And these are the things that can equalize the playing field for us when we have
Mhm.
people who look like us, who speak for us, but you have to vet them too. Because a lot of times they can look like us, but not have our interest. Just like there are women out there who are, becoming judges and becoming lawyers and they don't have the interest of other women either. Because I was
Yeah.
just reading about this woman, a judge who let this man off from raping a girl from the time she was 8 years old. I think she gave him 2 years, 2 years with an ankle bracelet.
Despicable.
And that's a woman.
Despicable.
That's a woman. So I'm just saying, even if the person is your same skin color, your same gender, or whatever, you still have to vet. You have to
Yeah.
vet. So I say pay attention. But we are the governor has nominated this woman and some others to fill a seat on the Supreme Court, and her name is Angeline Bailey Cooper. And I, along with the Rhode Island Coalition of Black Women, are want to get the word out. We want people to come out. Her hearing is on January 28th. It's open 5 p.m. And get involved and, listen, call up her office and find out more about her, because me telling you about her is one thing, but you need to do your own research on these things. But she is a woman of color. She does, and she has worked a lot with diversity, and we're behind her and want to support her. But also, this is what Dr. King fought for her to be able to sit on the Supreme Court in Rhode Island.
Yeah, it's serious right now, people.
Very
Everyone has to
serious.
do something, whether you do a small part or whether you do a large part. It is important to do something and just to be talking within your family about what you can do as far as society goes. A lot of
Hmm.
people need our help, and there are ways you can help people without putting yourself in immediate danger, if you're concerned about, because I know a lot of people would like to help, but they're worried about their personal safety, especially with a lot of things that are going on. But you can volunteer, you can help at different organizations. And I think it's important to get offline and do more in-person research. Pick up the phone, go into a coalition office, like, the women's coalition that Shahida was talking about. Go and talk to people, write your congressperson, look into who your city council people are and speak to them, ask them what activities are going on, because you can't fully trust social media at this moment. I think it's
No.
important to say that social media, while there's a lot of good information being spread and being available there, there's a lot of bad stuff floating around social media right now,
And hard to
misinformation,
tell. Very
and
hard to tell.
it's
Yes.
hard to tell. And AI is at an all-time high. A lot of these videos that are being reshared and things like that are not real. A lot of the stories that are being reshared are not fact checked or fact based. So get offline. A lot of things are, especially if you live in a major metropolitan city or near a major metropolitan city, you can go in person or you can go on a website, the official website of these organizations, and talk to people and really get some solid information about how you can be helpful, in the
Yeah.
community.
Yeah. Yeah. You got to do your best. I mean, this man was murdered for a reason, and that was for his voice. And that's the least we could do. Like you say, that voting is it's the bare minimum for us, but it was never the bare minimum for them.
Right.
And there were so many people who just tried to exercise their right to vote and had the Klan on their doorstep that night.
I don't know
So
how many times I've
we just hmm?
No, I was gonna say I watch the show Finding Your Roots a lot. It's Dr. Henry
Mm-hmm.
Louis Gates, and he's always like digging into people's genealogy. And so many times he has shown celebrities, their relative, who for the first time cast a vote in a presidential election or whatever kind of election they voted in, and their lives were literally on the line. They could have been killed just for
Mm-hmm.
showing up to cast a vote. But
Mm-hmm.
despite that danger, they still
Mm-hmm.
put their lives on the line to cast a vote in an election.
And before we close out on this part, I want to say one thing. Stop saying, "Oh, we're not our ancestors." People say that as a disrespect, like I will put hands on you when my ancestors couldn't. Um, no, you probably don't have the resilience of your ancestors. I know I don't. Because when I look at those pictures of those little black children segregating schools, and I'm like, would I have put my child into a school where they're going to be yelling the N word at them? No, I wouldn't have done it. I don't
Throwing
think I
things
would have
at
done it.
them, and
I
the
wouldn't have
the
done
pure
it.
isolation, the pure isolation
Yes.
of being the only black kid. And I was the only black girl
Mm-hmm.
in my first grade class. And I don't even know if my mother understood what like a political statement that was, but it was a
Mm-hmm.
political statement in and of itself. Although, segregation was abolished by then, it was the 80s and whatnot. But I was the only black girl in my first grade class, and I ran circles around those other little children. I will say I was a mathadot champion, and they wanted to promote me to
Mm-hmm.
second grade. So I
Mm-hmm.
got in there armed with all the tools that my mom sent me in there with, and there was just never a question of get in there and prosper. But we can't say what we would have done in those situations, because there was
Mm-mm.
there was a culture of making an example. So they would make an example out of someone to keep everyone else in line. That's why there was
Mm-hmm.
brutal, beatings. That's why there was murder. That's why there was kidnapping. That's why there was torture and all these other things to suppress people down. So when I pray, and I do pray, I pray for my ancestors who suffered before me.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the groups that I pray for when I'm saying my prayers is. And in African culture, West African culture, they're called your Ade. The Ade are the
Mm-hmm.
people who suffered so you could be here. I pray for
Mm-hmm.
my Ade every single time I pray, because
Mm-hmm.
what they went through so I could live in a house with hot water running, indoor plumbing, have a job where I can prosper and I can have disposable income to do all the things I do. I owe those people. I stand on their shoulders. So there's never a time where I think I'm better than these people, because I know I am not. I know I'm not.
They're a lot, and I don't think that people really are doing it to be insulting to the ancestors. They're just trying to buck up towards. But don't say that, because you probably couldn't deal with a quarter of what they had to deal with. And like you say, all the things that were taken from them and then they're whipped into submission, they still did it anyway. Because
Mm-hmm.
think about all the children that still were learning to read in secret, the adults learning to read and write in secret. Just because that master said no, that does not mean that's what they did. And it definitely doesn't mean that's what they felt in their soul. They did a lot. And we can't disrespect them by saying, I am not my ancestors. We would be lucky to be who they are and to have the same sort of perseverance that they do. So, and
Yeah.
I like what you said about like the Africans, how they do it, because in Islam, when you pray on your ancestors or your family members, every time you pray for them, that elevates them more in heaven. That's,
Mm.
it's one of their prayers. So, you know, my mother's constantly telling me pray for,
Yeah,
whoever passed away,
absolutely.
because it elevates them into that. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. I love African cultures. When you hear like, these different things, I really, really do. And one of the things, and I know, I know we're supposed to be wrapping up, but a couple of years ago, you know how they have like, um, I forget what it was, but it was something about their religion and it being pagan or something. And
Mm.
Mia was explaining to me about this custom or whatever, and I was just like, "Ooh, I don't know. It sounds. I don't like the way." She says, "Why do you think this is where you come from? So why would you think that this act of reverence to God is the wrong way when they're telling you just this Christian way is the right way to speak to God?" I forget it, but it checked me so hard. And
Yeah.
ever since that, I started looking at African culture completely different, because I think I had the mindset years ago that whatever their culture was, even though I knew it was a part of me, I thought that we have evolved to something better. And Christianity evolving to what we're taught here is not better than what the
It's
Africans
not.
laid out
And
for
it's
us
not.
in
And
our
what we do is labeled as voodoo. What, West Africans and Haitians do is labeled as
hmm
voodoo. Meanwhile, you're doing stuff in other Christian or Catholic churches that is equally voodoo-ish. So I don't want to hear
hmm
it. Like I don't
especially the
want to hear
Catholic,
it.
because I think they got that from Africans.
There's a
A
lot
lot of
of
their stuff.
stuff. Yeah.
hmm
So, but I will end on saying we're reading a book in book club this month called Zeal. I started it, and there's so
hmm
much. It goes back into the post abolition of slavery, like right at the moment where slavery is abolished, and these characters are trying to navigate, and it does not get better for them. If anything, they are in a worse situation coming out of slavery, because now they're trying to pivot and trying to find these lost family members. It's actually a really
They did
good
not
book,
make it easy.
and it's painful. It's actually
hmm
painful to read the book, or I'm listening in on audio. I have to take breaks from it because I'm so
hmm
stressed out reading about the experiences of
hmm
these people. So understand that we Kamala said it. We are not going back. I definitely don't want to go back. So I'm not saying I'm not my ancestors, but I am saying I am not going back. So knowing your history, to bring it full circle to what you said earlier, knowing what we come from and respecting it is all the more reason to push back and resist.
Yes. Push back and resist. Definitely resist. We have to resist it, but we not only have to resist it for ourselves, we have to resist it for our neighbors, and we have to resist it for our children. It's unfortunate that a lot of groups are finding out that that white adjacency that they thought was, so strong for them, was never. It was never a
Mhm.
contract between you. The only contract that you had with them was to help, demolish the black community, which is not going to happen. But so with that, we're going to kind of like pivot. Is there any good? I mean, there are good things going on. We can end. I mean, because our anniversary, that's a big thing.
That is a big thing. I mean, Funda Fest, as I mentioned, is on until January 25th. I believe one of the restaurant weeks is happening around town
Mm-hmm.
too. There's a lot going on. I'll post more things on our socials. But yeah, lots to come. Lots of good activities and events coming up. Galentine's is coming up again next month. Actually, it's at the
Yes,
end of
yes.
this month. Chantel
Oh, it is?
Mayo is
Okay.
doing Galentine's on the 30th, I believe. It's the last Saturday of this month. So, and that's
Mm-hmm.
in the Boston area. So lots of fun things coming up. And, we're not here to bring gloom and doom, but we do have to speak reality, especially when it's
Mm-hmm.
happening. So, we do have some other cool things coming up. We will be doing not a voice note, but a listener Q&A about a situation that's come up. So someone asked us for some
Oh,
advice. So
yeah.
we'll be
I don't
doing an
even know
episode.
what this is.
We'll be doing an episode on that. I think we should bring that next
Mm-hmm.
week because this person really
Mm-hmm.
needs some feedback. It has to do with
Okay.
workplace relationships.
We have a crime episode coming up, most
Yes.
likely in February. We're working on that. We just have some, really interesting, cool things that we want to kind of work out this. I mean, yeah, third year.
And we'll
It's
be
our
bringing
third
some
year.
interviews as well. We'll be bringing some great
Oh yeah,
interviews your way.
definitely
It's
some
been a
guests.
while since we've had a guest, so we'll bring some more guests on soon.
Hmm.
But other than that,
So until then,
yep, you know where to find us on social media. We are on Facebook. We are also on Instagram. And if you would like to watch our beautiful faces, you can go on YouTube and watch us. We recommend that you use YouTube and Apple Podcasts, but you can listen and watch wherever podcasts are seen and heard.
that is true. So until next time, have a great week. Think about your resistance, not just for today, but for the following weeks ahead, because we have a long fight. And God bless those in Minnesota, and I hope that they stay safe.
Ashe.